welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to another episode of Spectacle on Television Nigerian. I am your host, Daniel Atai. And today's topic will be dealing with the Zamfara example, that is following the Zamfara state example that have abolished the payment of allowances to ex-governors. And we'll also be looking into the Senate proposed bill against electoral violence. Going straight with the topic of today, with me in the studio is Honorable Kenneth Angbo. Kenneth Angbo is a public affairs analyst and a social commentator. Welcome to Spectacle, sir.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Now, without much ado about allowances of ex-governors and ex-public servants, we would want to put it straight that the Zamfara state governor, Matayali, what is that his surname, has said that the House of Assembly have to put a law, which has already have been established from the state, that no ex-governor or public servant will receive allowances after office. Recall that most governors that served in the country would like to become senators and so on, and they collect allowances from the office they have served before and the current office they are occupying, making it difficult for revenue sharing formula and implementation of project works in the state. And we'll be looking into that and to see whether other governors in the state should follow suit or not. That is why you are here today, to help us throw commentary into this and enlighten the people what the Zamfara state governor and the House of Assembly have done. Is it legal? Is it proper? Is it okay for the state? And is it a precedent that should be followed or not?
For me, I think we must start from the point of commendation.
Okay.
The governor and the House of Assembly in Zamfara state have done a very commendable thing. Not only are we going to talk about the legality of it, we should also look at the morality of it as well. And I think that if a precedent has been set, Zamfara is not, in your normal estimation, Zamfara shouldn't be the trailblazer in matters like this. But coming from Zamfara, I think this is a forthright thinking. The politicians there, the governor and the legislators in that state have shown that they really care not about what goes into their pocket, but care more about the welfare of the people. Because there is a multiple stream from which these leaders earn their living these days. Some of them had served in certain capacity to when they retired. Some had been military officers before, and they still take their pensions as due. Some have been previously governors, and now they are in Senate. And so they are, notice that they are receiving monies from the federal government or from coffers of government, different sources at different levels, to the tune that is ridiculous. If you remember, I think it was Akwa Ibom State that started this whole obnoxious law, where they passed a bill that an ex-governor is entitled to certain amount of millions annually, entitled to brand new house every 4 or 5 years, both houses in Abuja, Lagos, and I think another
and the state and the state.
Then they have access to foreign trips, certain amount of, some had like up to 5 brand new cars every year. So it's ridiculous. Lagos State told that path, and a host of other states did that. And essentially so because the state of assemblies that are supposed to legislate and look at these things on the merit of it are merely rubber stamps of the executives of their respective states. And so what we have seen, a clear departure from the obnoxious laws and daylight robbery of the people. It clearly tells you that we are going to be drawing example and inference from the Zamfara experience. And I want to commend the governor. I want to commend, because he's a sitting governor and he should understand better than any one of us the perks of office. I mean, he's in that office for 4 years, and if by renewal of another term, he gets 8 years. And what that means is that being on that seat for 4 years, he is not using one pin from his pocket to buy anything. School fees, feeding, hospital, and all those things, entertainment, newspaper, everything is bought for him, including budget for cutting of hair. Then you now have a man who is not going to be touching his salaries for 4 years, and then after 4 years, you're not giving him another outrageous bill, like 30 million naira annually for his upkeep. I do not think that is. I think it's a disservice to the people, to our people, to the citizens of this country, and to all the states that have implemented this law. And I think that civil societies like Serap, that had been at the forefront of this, trying to make sure that the state assemblies do not pass this kind of laws, should also be commended, because they have. But we need to still draw more support against this kind of law, against the practice, not the law now, against the practice of state governors wanting to take more monies for themselves after they leave office. And it's not only them, even the presidents. I mean, I don't see any reason. Ex-presidents. I mean, in the last bill, about 2 billion naira, I think the current year we're in, about 2 billion naira was earmarked also for ex-presidents.
In the state, over 387 billion have been engulfed by ex-governors' allowances. Now, do you actually think this is not witch hunting? Making that law at the state level?
Witch hunting who?
The former governor.
He's not the only person who has been former governor in that state.
Abdulaziz Yari.
Not only Abdulaziz Yari. Before him, there was Shinkafi. Before Shinkafi, there was Ahmed Yarima.
Okay.
And
noticing that he was the one asking for his 10 million just last week.
Okay, so let's even get to that now. Previously, he didn't even pay the ones before him. He didn't pay Yarima. He didn't pay Shinkafi, and he left office not up to 10 months. He's demanding for payment. See, I think he is a self-serving person, and it's that grandstanding and self-serving that costs APC the entire structure of the state. Both the governorship and the houses of assembly, everything. They lost because the APC didn't field a single candidate in the last election. So it's his self-serving nature that created that. And so in that same manner, he has also come up to say, pay me. But while he was there, he didn't even pay his predecessors. So it's not about whether it's witch hunting. Because if you say it's witch hunting, that means the governor is saying that during my time, so I shouldn't even get it. But he's looking at the fact that it's not about himself. It's not about any individual. Because he ordinarily is going to be a beneficiary of this same law. But by abolishing this, he's clearly sending a message that we, the elites, those of us who have served in that capacity, need not take any extra money. Because you know where this is gravitating towards? Is that, and I think a few states also have also implemented and passed. I think Lagos State did that for the principal officials of the House of Assembly. So it's not good for our democracy, because democracy is about service to the people. But what we are now doing is that it is the people who are now serving those who are already milking us dry of our resources. The scarce resources that we do not have. These governors will sit in their offices for 4 years and would not. I mean, take the case of the Benue State governor, for example, who has been there for 5 years now. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't commissioned any projects. I mean, the state is a dead state, economically dead state in terms of social infrastructure, dead in all ramifications. So, and then you now want a governor like that to go and take 20 million, 30 million with other perks after leaving office.
He might still be going to the
and
Senate.
Then he will now go to Senate.
That is their usual norm.
Nigerians need to rise up against this kind of
all right. And
fraud.
Another issue to this, that I say litigation to this unprecedented happening in Zamfara state is the issue with the National Assembly. You know, this is the state assembly that have passed this law that have abolished the ex-governor's allowances. Do you think somebody might protest to the National Assembly that supersede the law of the state?
First of all, there is no law in our constitution that guarantees this frivolous fleecing of people's patrimony into the hands of any 7 governor. Yes, there is for the president, for ex-presidents, but as it relates to state governors and state houses of assembly, there is no known law except those domiciled in each of the states that have done that.
The laws were created in the states.
It's a creation of the different states that have so far passed those laws. So it has no place in our constitution. And I tell you the reason why. You know, most times when we talk about national development, we're only looking at the federal, the center. Nobody is paying glowing attention to what happens in different states. At the state level, you see that governments and governors are not held to account. So these people act as lords and manor of their respective states. And nobody challenge them. You dare not challenge them. I mean, the few people who have attempted to challenge these people, we know what has happened to them. Some of them are incarcerated. Some of them have been maimed. Some have been killed. You know, so you have that kind of environment where every enclave within the state is under the grip and the dominion of a state governor, who now act as emperors. And so these governors, most of the governors are not democratic in their disposition. And so we need to beam more searchlight on our state governors and make sure that we hold them to account. Civil societies at the local levels should be able to hold these people to account and say, no, certain laws like this...
Hold them into account as ex-governors or as sitting governors. You
know, when laws like this are being passed, first of all, every law goes through three stages. The stage of introduction, the first reading, the second, before the passage of it, before it becomes a bill. The third stage is when it's supposed to be public hearing. But the question is that how many people would have access to that public hearing? And most times it's stage managed, where you have paid CSOs that go in there and sit down, but they do not object to it. And it also tells you the kind of representations we have at our various levels of representation level, where the people really do not consult with their people to ask whether you really want this law to be passed, because whether you like it or not, these House of Assembly members want to go back a second time, and they would need to ride on the crest of their governors to be able to do that. But
instead as on the crest of the people that voted them.
As long as these local legislators cannot have their own autonomy. And I'm glad that the president has also proposed a bill for, which is one of the things he told the National Assembly to expedite. But you know where my problem would come from? It's not at the National Assembly level. It is a level where the people that it matters to most will shoot it down. Because we have seen it happen before, where the assembly members said, no, we don't want autonomy. But recently, all the speakers of the 36 state houses of assembly converged in Abuja in a meeting with the president, and they were asking the president to do this. But the question is, when it gets to their stable, will they be able to legislate on it and say, we want to ratify what the National Assembly has passed?
All right. After this short break, when we come back, I will be asking you whether this president should be followed by other state governors, and what do we do from the civil society, department to follow this very unprecedented example from Zamfara state, and also the issue of National Assembly proposing a law against electoral violence. Stay with us. After this timeout, we will be with you.
The issue here we have to begin to look at is that at the time of independence, I don't know if there was a trajectory to where we are going to.
But how could it be that credible, free and fair under manual conduct of election?
That is where our problem lies, and that is why people are now seeing that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. we should move from the manual to the digital.
We cannot keep doing same thing and expecting a different result.
The only way you create jobs from your ministry is that you have to encourage local content.
If you look at the profile of Sally Mama,
there is a caveat in this leave given to him. He should seek medical help if he's fine.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria.
The issue here
welcome back. We are still dealing with the issue of following the example of Zamfara State and the proposed bill by the National Assembly against electoral violence. And with me in the studio has been Kennedy Angbo, a public affairs analyst and a social commentator. Now, I was about asking you, Kennedy, that the action of the House of Assembly of Zamfara State, do you think that other governors, other houses of assembly in the state, across the 36 states, would follow this example? Do you think they will do it?
You know, there is an office where there is a body called the Body of Speakers Association or so of Nigeria.
Okay.
Where the 36 state speakers of the different houses of assemblies in all the states meet together, discuss ways, just like you have the Governors Forum.
Yeah.
That forum is supposed to be like a peer review mechanism for people to compare notes in terms of legislative activities within certain areas and how they are applying them in other states. But I do not think that really is what it's there for them to do. Because I think what they try to do, I think what we have done with offices is to create offices for the political exigencies of it. But if they were truly serious about it, what I expect the Speakers Conference to do, that's what it's called, the Conference of Speakers, Conference of Nigerian Speakers or so.
Yes.
What they're supposed to be doing is to compare notes. Because I can tell you that aside being rubber stamps where in their domain they do not have control of the assembly, but the governor, when they meet on a platform like that, what they should be discussing is, this is the challenges we have. And I'm saying this against the backdrop of the fact that we have organized different fora for top principal officers at the different houses of assemblies together, and we have talked to them about engaging in a democratic space. And one of the complaints we have had over time, repeatedly from this set of people, is that they do not have control over the affairs of
because if you ask them to go and do, now the governor of Zamfara State gave backing to,
and that is so. It tells you that it comes with the political will of the executive.
Okay,
where the executive would mandate or give the House of Assembly the power or the latitude to be able to go ahead with such,
which ironically the power they ought to have.
It should be an initiative. That does not mean that the governor cannot sponsor what you call an executive bill.
Yeah, the governor can.
But if the people are not subservient and are not appendages of the governors, they should on their own stand against this. Because I know I interact with them and they tell us how they do not like some of these draconian laws, but they have no option. And so I think that as a peer review mechanism, they're not, in principle, yes, but in practice they are not. So I think that as peer review organization, they should compare notes and say, what the Zamfara state has done, can we try to replicate this in our various states? That is a huge challenge. But because it has a self interest for them, they probably will not do it, because some who would be aspiring to become governors would want to benefit from the largesse, as the case may be. But I think that in overall of it, that the state assembly members should look at the interests of the people and consider that this monies you're giving is enough to pay salaries for teachers, pay salaries for local government workers and the rest. So I think that we should go beyond just serving ourselves. We should serve our people, which is essentially why we are there in the first place.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the issue of the proposed bill we heard about from the National Assembly, I heard about Ahmad Lawan trying, and the Senate want to pass a bill against electoral violence across states, setting examples from Kogi State and Bayelsa State, that any election now, henceforth, will be violence-free. Do you think it is possible in this country? Are there no law guiding this already?
I think it was Justice Oputa that said something that the laws are there. I can't quote him verbatim, but he was trying to say that the laws were created for man to break it, so that the law can take its course. I do not think that passing laws in themselves are enough deterrents. No, I do not think so. I do not think that laws stop. So laws, usually, if you look at laws are not essentially to prevent. So what I think is that we need to, first of all, while we agree and it's good that we legislate on this so that we can reduce the amount of people who commit these crimes, we should also look at remote and immediate causes. What are the variables? What are the probabilities? What are the factors that enhances or creates the conducive atmosphere and environment for people to be able to create violence for election? Even with the deployment of all security apparatus, military, police, and the other paramilitary outfits, you have noticed that there is nowhere in Nigeria, including as small as local government elections, where you don't record violence. So the question is, have we been able to do have we diagnosed why these things happen? We haven't. What is the reason why someone would go as a thug and scuttle an election that is meant to bring people, because the essence of democracy is for people to participate. But what we have done is to stand democracy and election on its head, where we prevent people from going to
demonstrate their franchise.
Is their civic responsibility. And so, in the past we used to talk about voter apathy. In the early 60s and the rest, the wave of activism in the US for the blacks to eventually get on board to vote. It was a movement for people to be enfranchised. But now we disenfranchise people not by legislation, but by act of violence. And I think what we need to begin to think about is why. We need to look at the why, the what, and the who. Who are those behind? Who are the benefactors? Who are the beneficiaries? Because there can't be beneficiary without benefactors in this case. So some people sit down, gather boys who are thugs, as a result of the fact that we have refused to develop and train these people to go to school. And so these boys will now recruit them as our tools, willing tools.
Or keep them hungry after every election.
Exactly.
And only useful during election.
And that is some of the things. So we need to do campaigns. We need to study and find out why these things are happening. It's good to have laws to punish them. But you see, how many people can you punish? And I think that the National Assembly should not be lazy with this bill. Part of what I would encourage the National Assembly to do is to carry out a study and ask people to, civil societies, to proffer solutions. How can we mitigate violence within our electoral space? Those are the things we need to look at. Then you now legislate on them. Because you want, while you're coming up with laws, you also want to make sure you want to reduce the cases. So if you reduce the cases, then the courts will not have much to do.
And if electoral violence is traced to a particular godfather or politician, do you think the laws we have in the country will be able to punish them?
Apart from the fact that I want to specifically...
Especially judging from these parties.
That want to specifically create a law to deal with electoral violence. There are enough laws on ground that can deal with that.
All right.
But the problem is, number one, the security agencies and agents turn blind eyes to these things. I mean, we saw what happened in Lagos. There were footages there. We saw that in the one in Rivers during the election. We saw it in a couple of other states.
Yeah.
But how many of those people were arrested? And even when you arrest, do you try to get intel from those culprits to tell you whom they were working for? And when they tell you, what do you do with them? How come we haven't seen any big politician holding, apart from the small ones, the people who carry out this violence? So I think that the law should not only punish those who perpetrate the act, they are benefactors.
Exactly.
I mean, the Zamfara state governor clearly indicted, or is a claim, and say that the former governor Yari
sponsoring
that he bought ammunitions and sponsored thugs, bandits, and all that. What are they doing with that? Who is going to investigate that? And the last time I was here, I also talked about former Ogun State Governor Ibikulu Amosu.
Yeah.
These are places where people go and import. Okay, there was a time the Kogi governor was intercepted. I mean, government, a cache of ammunitions were, and we didn't hear anything about that.
All right.
So we need to begin to look at all of this. Is the proliferation of weapons, light arms, and all that within our borders. It's alarming. And what that means is that by the time these boys are through, they can turn these guns on. That's why the politicians now are afraid that this violence could be on them.
Exactly. This is, anyway, that is why the politicians are afraid, and of course the National Assembly, the Senate have said that if they don't pass this bill now against electoral violence, they might not be safe in the long run of conducting election. That's where Spectacle will stop today. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles. Our Twitter handle is at TV Nigerian, and we have our YouTube link, our Facebook link. Just search Television Nigerian on your palm top, your laptop, and your gadget. This is where we stop now. I have been your host, Daniel Atai. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.